Okay. RockEyez would like to welcome Pageant. How you doing today, guys?
What's up? We're good. How you doing?
Cool, cool. Before we were discussing a little bit about the debut single, All Dolled Up. Can anyone tell me a little bit about that song and how it was received?
So that song was the first song I ever wrote lyrically. I was like 14 years old. I loved Motley Crue and Cheap Trick and New York Dolls, T-Rex. I was just obsessed with them. And so I really wanted to write a song, and I really wanted to write a song that was, like the classic, like catchy, like very simple, not a whole lot of meaning to it, rock and roll song. And so I started writing the lyrics, and this was during COVID. So I guess I was 15. I just turned 15. And so the lyrics are kind of about wanting to do something so bad, wanting to have a band, wanting to, play the drums and play live, and not having any way to do it, not having a group of people to play with yet. And even if I did have a group of people to play with, not having, the opportunity to because of the COVID lockdown.
Yeah.
And so that really just, it was honestly just me as a kid kind of messing around and trying to make something as a recreation of, some of the bands that I loved and kind of also expressing at the same time the feelings I was feeling at the time, and really kind of trying to step into the shoes of, a rock star or whatever. And, all dolled up with nowhere to go, as in, I'm ready to go out, I'm ready to do my thing, I'm ready to play, but there's just not a way for me to right now. And so I feel like it kind of can speak for a lot of different stuff. On the surface, it really just is a simple song. But the meaning all dolled up with nowhere to go, it can kind of go with a lot of things. It can go with you can take it at surface level, or you can kind of, in the same way that I meant it, it's like wanting something so bad, but not necessarily having, the avenue to pursue it at the time.
I was watching some of your videos, I guess from the past and stuff like that. It's really like a throwback to the 80s, what people want now these days again. They don't want, like that emo and all that other kind of stuff. They want to throw back to the 80s. Was that your purpose on the videos?
Oh,
Yeah, I guess kind of. We were like really into the like film camera look and like the way that just like music videos and like live videos from the 80s specifically looked to us is really like I don't know, it's appealing because that's what the way all of our favorite bands,
Right.
all of the videos looked. So we wanted it to look just like that.
well, it was also too, we didn't have a lot of money at all, for starting off. And so, I mean, even now, but starting off especially, we wanted to make a video for All Dolled Up. And I guess the thought process was not only, we loved the old, nostalgic look of the old videos and stuff, but at the same time, we were like, how can we do this as cheap as possible, but still make it look stylized? Because I guess my thought process was we could go to the store and buy, a couple $100 camera and then shoot the video and have it look like we're shooting on a couple $100 camera and that's all we can afford.
Right.
Or we can use an old camera and make it look like it was a choice. And part of it was a choice, but also at the same time, it was what we had. And we kind of wanted to take that and make it work and make it look intentional.
Right. Yeah. Cool, cool, cool. Now, Roxy, how's the club scene in North Carolina?
It's not too bad. I think we do pretty well whenever we go out and play clubs. They're always a good time. We have a lot of cool ones like the Flatiron in Greensboro, um, stuff like that. I mean, the Ramcat in Winston is a bigger one, but we love getting to play out there. But yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty good. I think it could be a lot worse. I think we got some pretty sweet places to play. So.
Cam, is there any really popular band that ever came out of North Carolina?
Um, I can think of one. I can't think of any like right now. Chris Daughtry's from here. Oh, I
That's a
didn't know.
good one. He's good.
Yeah, yeah, Daughtry.
I had no idea.
Who else? Um, I don't know. You got anything?
I can't think of any such stuff.
So you guys could be the first,
Yeah, I guess.
right? Or
Hey,
the second, right?
John Coltrane was from here though. He's from High Point, so that's kind of cool.
Cool, cool, cool. Okay, let's get to your Walkin The Line album in 2023. Um, First, let's go down a couple tracks. First, you started with an intro, and then you went into Howlin. Tell me a little bit about that song, Roxy.
Howlin to me is like our just like our kick ass like balls to the wall type song. Like whenever we play it live, we do like a whole like back and forth with our crowd. Just trying to get the energy out, getting the levels up, getting everybody hyped up. Just like Dezzy does a thing, and then we get them to scream back at us and back and forth type of deal. But for a while before some of the newer stuff we started working on was getting worked on, that was one of my favorites. So that's definitely a top five, I guess, for me. But I like that one. Definitely high energy.
Love by the Minute. Let's go to Dylan. Tell me a little bit about that song.
So that song's been around for forever. And so before we had this group together, me, Roxy, and Dezzy, in 2020 at the start of the band, we had a different singer. And so some of the songs are like the very, very like first songs that we ever worked on. And so Love by the Minute was originally called what was it called? It was like Leather Rebel, and our old
I think that's
singer,
what it was.
yeah, our old singer is the one who wrote all the lyrics and stuff like that. And so well, none of the lyrics are the same anymore. They all ended up being changed, but at the time he wrote all the lyrics. And so Leather Rebel, it was like, really just same type of thing. It's like, nonstop, just fast, fast, fast. And I feel like it's funny because over time, it was almost like it started off like so fucking fast. And then we kind of slowed it down and we are like, okay, like, we're going to change the words. We're going to redo this song and we're going to kind of focus on getting some more dynamics in it and stuff. And then we go to the studio to record it. And then it's like all the way up here fast again. And so then I feel like it's constantly going between, fast and then slowing down and then fast. But that's usually the second song we open up our set with. And so we'll start with Voodoo Kiss, and then immediately go into Love by the Minute. And I kind of do like a little drum thing at the beginning, like a brownstone type thing, where we usually introduce the band or just kind of, you know, um, before we jump into the song. But yeah, that one's fun and definitely hurts my arms sometimes.
Let's go to Voodoo Kiss. Let's go to Desi. Tell me a little bit about that track.
Sure. I think that was probably the first song that I had put together musically, and that was before we were even a band. I was playing with a couple of different guys in a band called Bad Attitude, believe it or not. And we I had this the like main riff of this song, but it was way slower and it was a lot heavier
Mhm.
than than it is now. And when we came here, it was one of the first songs that I brought to them, and I was like, I don't know, this is kind of cool. Like it's a lot of fun to play. So what do you guys think? And we sped it up a lot, and then put some words to it, and it just ended up being a really badass track, I think. So
Cool, cool, cool. Walking the Line, the title track. Cameron, tell me a little bit about that song.
Um, it was one of my favorite to learn. I wasn't in the band when they wrote it,
Uh-huh.
but it was actually before I was in the band. Desi taught me how to play it. And it was like my favorite to play. Like the main riff, the you
Mhm.
know main part that comes in.
Cool, cool.
But it's it's probably my second favorite off the first one to like play.
Right,
Howlin's my first favorite, but I like it sounds like it's from like classic like 80s movie like Karate Kid or something.
right, yeah.
But I don't know, it's probably my favorite play. Um yeah.
Cool, cool, cool. Let's go to My Heart Stops Again. Let's go to Roxy.
Oh man. Dude, that I love that song. I've always loved that song. That's one that Desi did. That he also wrote, I think, before we were a band, before we had even really met.
Right.
Um, And he started playing that, and I was like, man, that's some classic shit right there.
Uh,
That's a good song. But I love singing that one. It's we don't play it as much live now. But I miss when we did just because it was so it feels very powerful to play. You know, you got a good crowd going. It feels very powerful to play. It's a really, I don't know, punches hard if you're feeling it, you know. So it's an emotional song to sing, to play and stuff. So I enjoy it for that reason for sure.
cool. Dylan, what's like I asked about the club scene. What is a mid-size club? How many patrons does it usually hold?
So I would say probably a mid-sized would be like Flatiron is a great one in Greensboro, and it's like 100 people or so. But then the Ramcat, they have a gas cell drinking room, which is kind of like the back room in it, which
Right.
is about the same 100. And so those are our favorite spaces to play because you know you pack out 100 people and somewhere like that, and it's so not a small space, but 100 people in there feels so tight that there's so much energy to where it's like we love playing the bigger stages and we love playing the actual Rimcat stage. And you know, we played Ziggy's here a couple years back too. And those stages are awesome, but you know, there's almost like a disconnect between, you know, the stage being so high and then the people out there. Whereas being in kind of a smaller place and, you know, packing it out, you're right there with everybody. You know, everybody's like basically at eye level and the energy is just so, you know, infectious. It just the whole room just feels it. And so but yeah, those are probably our favorite spots to play around here.
Cool, cool. Desi, let's talk a little bit about All Dolled Up. Tell me a
Sure.
little bit about that track.
Yeah, so I remember Dylan had the words, and I it was probably one of the first times we were even playing together. Probably
Mhm.
like maybe our fourth or fifth like practice together. And I know he's got the words, and then I think you like did the like mouth the main riff or
Yeah.
something.
I like had an idea in my head of like on like a voice memo or something where I was like, um, I it was like I don't even think I had any idea for like I think the idea I had for it was like, well, maybe it could go something like this was like completely different. But I knew the like melody of the words. And so then you were able to kind of
And
like,
then yeah,
you know,
I
go
remember you
around
like,
it.
could you do something like no, and then I
Yeah.
just did it, and then it kind of like evolved from there. But like obviously there's a little more to that, but that the main story is that like it kind of came to be just from that little idea.
Well, and
So
also that song was the first we recorded demos to put on
mhm.
YouTube
Right.
in 2020 with our old singer. And so those were kind of honestly just like one for practice and two to,
Yeah.
you know, at the time we couldn't go to the studio, we couldn't record, we couldn't play live. And so, you know, this was right after lockdown. So everything was still starting back
Mhm.
up. And so All Up was the first song that we did like that. And so I feel like that song is kind of just like, you know, a classic example of like whenever I listen to it, all I can think of is just like, you know, just everything being new and just like, you know, the innocence of it, where it just like, you know, trying to step into the feeling like a rock star and we're making a rock song and stuff like that, you know, where it's like, I think it's still a, you know, a cool song, but it's very, feels very juvenile, you know, and it's fun because of that.
Cameron, tell me about the last track, Better Things Coming.
Who's that? Sorry, the call cut out really bad. I heard
No,
better things coming. I didn't hear
yeah.
anything
Tell me a
else.
little bit about that track.
Oh, okay. That one, that's another really OG one. We worked on that one probably either the first or second time we ever played together. Um, and that was my big bass song. I wanted to do a whole bass solo, whatever. And it just, I guess it was another one where we just wanted it to be, you know, hard, fast, rock and roll type deal.
Right.
And I think it's sort of like now to me, sort of more of like a stripped down song compared to, you know, the stuff that I prefer to play that I like to work on. You know, it's maybe one of my lesser favorite ones for that reason, but I still think that it's got a lot of punch, a lot of kick in the ass for some of those reasons.
Cool.
Um, But yeah, that one was was a good OG song that we played. We haven't played that one live in a long time,
Oh,
but it's fun. It's got the bass solo. When we do it, we do a whole breakdown when we do it live, so it's pretty fun. But yeah, yeah, for a long time that one was one of my favorites. So
oh,
Me
yeah.
and him used to be on the phone before the band even started trying to plan that one out because the whole like me and Roxy would be on the phone trying to like come up with like a melody for it and like lyrics and stuff because that song we were like, dude, if we're gonna like make a band and we're gonna like start playing like live, like we gotta like have a song that's badass and it's like Motley Crue and you can have like a Nikki Sixx like bass solo like in 10 Seconds to Love and like stuff like that. And so that one I feel like is another like very classic, like, having no experience in writing and, even being really a band like that yet. And so that's kind of like another one that I feel like just kind of like grew from just the idea of being a rock band rather than actually the practice.
oh, oh. Now, I was reading reviews about that debut release and stuff like that, and most of all the reviews were excellent. Were you a little bit of surprised how good of reviews you got on that? Because like my Global Mind website have that album at 8 out of 10 stars. So you guys did amazing for a debut album. Was that a little shocking, or you expected that?
Honestly, a little bit of both, I feel like, where it's like, at least, I mean, all of us, but I mean, I feel like I can only speak for me when I say this. I feel like I constantly like try and stay in the mindset of like, you know, this is possible, and not I don't, I guess I don't really see a point in expecting bad in anything because, you don't know what's going to happen either way. And so I just feel like it's always, good to expect a good outcome. And so obviously, the hope and the idea looking forward was that it was going to, do well, people were going to like it or whatever. But I guess it was kind of surprising right off the bat, how positive of a response we got because in the 2 weeks leading up to All Dolled Up, I made our TikTok account and started posting TikToks every single day. And the first TikTok I posted, previewing All Dolled Up, I think it got like 2,000, 2,500 likes or something, which, at the time for a first video, I was like, dude, no way, because people were commenting and they were excited and they were, it was just a cool validation to see people excited about not only our music but also new rock music coming out where I guess it kind of being online we almost found like a niche where it was like people who wanted to hear new rock music and wanted to support new rock bands and so I guess the response was very um positive in that way and that it didn't just feel like we were you know releasing music and then we got some streams and we don't really know from where Spotify just picked it up or something. It was almost like we had this like little tiny community that we were building that was supporting us and so and that stuck with us too and that's something that we're very grateful for and something that I think that separates our um group and our fan base and just us as a you know whole family from a lot of other stuff.
So, who is the Wiggles fan and who is the Muppet fan?
I think I'm the Wiggles fan.
You-
Definitely Muppets, man. Animal is a huge inspiration for me. But
I actually saw the Wiggles live.
Yeah, yeah. I
yeah,
saw him twice. We both saw him,
Yeah.
but yeah, the Wiggles all the way for me, man.
cool,
That's
cool.
like the purple one.
Yeah. Let's get to the new single, Show Me How to Love You. Who wants to talk about that and what kind of input into the song and when was it released?
Well, I guess the main thing we wanted was something that was very danceable live and something that's very, I guess more fun and lighthearted than our previous stuff. And to be honest, I think we got pretty close there.
Mhm.
It released on April 18th. which was a Friday, I think, right?
Mhm.
So
It was last Friday. It was
yeah.
a little over a week.
Yeah. And no, it was just a lot of fun to make. We got to work with Brian Craddock, the guitar player for Daughtry. He produced us, and he really taught us a lot about being in the studio and how things should work, and like structurally how a song should work, you know, or not how it should work, but ways it can work other than what we were doing and stuff like that. So he definitely taught us a lot about all of that stuff. So
Cool. Roxy, how hard is it for a new band to break into music and make any kind of impact?
Um, I I think it's hard. I also think it doesn't have to be depending on, like Dylan was saying earlier, it pretty quickly after we made our social media, we had like, our very small, tight-knit little group of people that liked our music and liked following us and knowing what we were up to. And I think that, kind of planting that seed and, having people find out about you, just only spreads. So I think, sometimes it moves quicker, sometimes it moves slower. Depending on how active we're being on social media, sometimes affects it. Sometimes it's hard to push out as much content as we would like to. Um, but I think, just always growing, slowly growing. The more places you play, the more people hear you, and you have more opportunities to make good impressions, and reach more people that you know, want to hear the kind of stuff that we're making. So.
Cool. Um, you guys have a new EP or LP coming soon? You're working on material?
We have three more singles after this one that we just released. And so the plan is to get back in the studio before that last single is released. And so we'll have more, whether we combine everything into an EP or continue to release them as singles. I don't know if we really know yet, but we like he was saying, our new songs are with Brian Craddock, and he's just been great. Leave You Behind was with Brian too. And so um we have Show Me How to Love You, which we just released, and then a song called Your Name, which is definitely one of my favorites. It's my girlfriend's favorite song of all time. And it's just a really fun one. And then, we have one that's kind of like a really, really, straight rock song, classic like 80s style Bon Jovi type song, and then a slower song. And so yeah, the goal is to get back in the studio, get some more material, and then hopefully release everything as a group of music later in the year.
Would a dream come true being them new songs on vinyl?
That would be awesome. We've talked about it too. We're still trying to, weigh the pros and cons of putting the first album on vinyl as well, because even just to sell at shows. And so we have the CDs of Walkin The Line, the first album. But since the release, especially my dad has been pushing, he's like, you guys need to make vinyls. You need to make vinyls, but just because he wants one, he just wants to be able to have one. But that's definitely something that would be awesome. It's just getting having them on hand is the big thing, because you can't just order a few vinyls. We got to have hundreds of them, which would be awesome. But definitely the new songs, having everything on a vinyl would be a dream come true.
Big time.
So how'd you hook up with the O'Donnell Media Group?
So we were actually referred to Shauna by Brian. And so Brian, I think, has a mutual friend with Shauna, and we worked with her on Leave You Behind too. And it's just been great, great person. And we really appreciate her hooking us up with not only you, but everybody else that we've had the opportunity to speak with. And so, yeah, that's something that we're very grateful for. We're super grateful for just everyone that we've been able to work with. I feel like recently, over the past probably year, we've kind of expanded our team a little bit more. Whereas it used to kind of just be us doing everything on our own. But more recently, we've started to be able to work with some cool people like Shauna in the O'Donnell Media Group.
Yeah, she does a great job.
Mhm.
She does a great job. So what's the future look like for the rest of the year for you guys? shows, whatever?
We're planning out the releases of those next three singles,
Uh-huh.
and then just continuing to play out. I know, we're talking about, just playing up and down the East Coast a little bit, maybe getting some shows down in Florida over the summer, maybe going up to New York, traveling a little bit more, maybe not as much as last year, but a little bit more. And then obviously lots more local shows. Um, Other than that, just excited to keep releasing new music and stuff. But
Yeah, we got a couple festivals we're playing too.
that's
State of Mind Fest in Raleigh, and then Carolina Indie Fest in September in, I think that's in Raleigh too. It's in somewhere in North Carolina. But yeah, those are coming up, and then hopefully, a couple more festivals since we're getting into that season. And then something else that we've really enjoyed doing recently too is playing college shows. And so whenever school comes back into season, if you go to school around here, around the East Coast, then, maybe shoot us a message and we might come out to your school.
Okay. You guys have any merchandise you like to talk about where people could pick it up?
Yeah, on our website, officialpageantband.com, we have a whole merch section. There's a lot of shirts and stuff on there that you will not even be able to get at our shows. And so we carry merch to all of our shows, obviously, but we have a lot more designs on the website, and we have every size available always, whereas we quickly run out of, the larges and the extra larges that everybody wants at the shows. So definitely go check it out if you are interested.
Okay. So who came up with the name Pageant?
That was sort of me.
Uh-huh.
I was in the room that I'm in right now. This is my old bedroom. And me and Dylan used to just talk on the phone, like, sun up, sun down, over lockdown and a little bit after and stuff, talking about this band and what we like wanted from it. And it didn't even have a name, but we had everything planned out already.
Right.
So the issue became now we got to figure out a good name for it. And we had been bouncing around ideas for a couple of days. We thought barbed wire was a really good one. But I was just sitting in here and I had a best Christmas pageant ever junior, the musical like poster,
Right.
that I was in when I was younger, at the community theater, and it was on the wall. And I looked at that and I was just like, just pulled out pageant from that and was like, what about pageant? And we were like, yo,
Yeah.
that's kind of a cool one.
Yeah.
And once we met everybody else and it became time of what do we call ourselves now that we're more of a group, we have a full band. I was like, pageant, that's something that me and Dylan have been talking about, and everybody kind of liked it. So it stuck. But
Great. Well, guys, it was great talking to you, and I appreciate the chat. Would you like to each individually thank your fans?
Yeah, thank you, Brian, first of all. We really appreciate you having us. And thank you so much to everyone that continues to listen to us, that has streamed Show Me How to Love You or any of our music. Really appreciate it. If you're interested in coming out to one of our shows, check out our social medias. We got a link tree on there. We always have our shows up on there. And so, yeah, no, we love you guys.
We'll go next.
I'll go. I really do want to say I appreciate each and every one of our fans because, this is what I've always wanted to do, and it wouldn't be possible without all of you people listening. So, from the bottom of my heart, thank you.
Well, Cameron.
Um, yeah, thank you to like everybody who listens because I love doing this and I want to keep on doing this. So thank you all, and also thank you, Brian.
No problem. How about you, Roxy?
Yeah, I mean, I think they all said it pretty well, but thank you everyone who listens, everyone who streamed the new song. Keep streaming it. Like they said, I mean, we're not really doing a whole lot without the people to listen. So, you guys are basically everything. So, thanks everybody a lot. Thank you for having us, Brian.
No problem.
We love all you guys out there listening, man.
Cool. Thanks a lot. See you guys later.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, man. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.